Okay, hi guys. We're gonna start with showing you what the pressing equipment does. So you had a lesson on pressing equipment, but like it was just on paper. So I want you to see how it works. So we're gonna do the lesson to kind of give you an idea of how this stuff works. So I'm just gonna have her turn the camera this way. The first thing I want to show you is how to fill the iron. So right here you can see water in the iron and it goes up to this spot. You never want to fill it more than where that line is, because then when you use the iron, the water will start to leak and it will get kind of sloppy, and the iron will dry it out, but you don't want a lot of water dripping out of the iron. So you're going to use this filtered water. We use the filtered water because we want to prevent having a lot of sediment. These actually don't do well with distilled water. They're better with water just from the tap. But if we filter it, then it makes it so that it cuts out some of those minerals so that it doesn't get as much buildup on the inside. So you're going to find this in the classroom. I'm going to fill up this little cup. I've already filled it up. Then make sure the iron is unplugged so you don't electrocute yourself. And then open this little top, and then and all the irons work basically the same way. So I'm just going to put water in there. You're going to see you can kind of see it filling. You can zoom in on that where the water is. You can see this line going up as I pour water in. You want to make sure that line doesn't go any higher than that white max line where it says max fill. Okay, then I'm going to close it like this, and I'm going to click that. Okay, so what I want to show you is the pressing equipment. So I'm going to kind of show you in order of how the sheet is. And I think the clapper is the first item. So this is called a clapper. It's made out of wood, and it's just hardwood, and it sits there cold. Most of the time when it's in storage, it's cold, which is a good thing because it's actually for cold pressing. So I'm going to show you how to use it. It's going to make a seam permanent. So I'm just using a piece of fabric here. Actually, I'll use this to show it. So when you heat something up, it's going to see how if I fold that, there's no crease there. It just kind of rolls. So what I want to do with the clapper is so if I use the iron, it's going to make a crease, but if I use the clapper, it's going to make the crease more firm. So it'll make it more permanent. It's just the way it bonds. If it cools down with this on it, it's going to have like a really sharp crease. So I'm just going to take this. Now on your iron also, I want you to notice right here, keep the steam so it's off. That way you can control how much steam is coming out by pushing the button instead of just having it leak water out. Okay, so I'm going to just push that button to get it to steam. Okay, now as it's cooling, this is good, and it will, as long as you don't move it, it will leave a crease. This helps speed up the process a little. So we use it for cold pressing, and you just put that flat edge right on top of your crease, and so it will cool down with the pressure against it, and it makes a nice crease. So if you look at this, now you can see this permanent crease in there, and that's how they do it. Okay. Okay, the next item I want to show you how to use this is called the point presser. So the point presser has this little tiny point right here. Are you zooming in? Okay, so that little tiny point makes it so that you can get into small angles. So if I wanted to take this edge, just makes it easier to get, let's say that I wanted to press this over, but I didn't want to touch the underneath layer, it just makes it easy. And if I turn it inside out, you can kind of see it pressing over. This is an already finished product, but I'm just going to take that and put it over the top. And notice how I can just press right there, and it's not going to touch anything else on my fabric. So it makes it really just easy to press that. And then I can actually take the clapper, help that cool down quicker, and make it permanent so that when you look at it after it's been pressed, it actually makes a really nice looking seam. Okay, the next one I'm going to do or show you how to use is the press cloth. So this is I have a bunch of these and they're just fabric, white fabric that's been cut out, and it says press cloth and it says this side up. If you're looking at it from the back and it's spelled backwards, it's the wrong side up. So make sure that it says pressing side up, and make sure that that you can read it like it's the right direction. Okay, so what this does is it puts a kind of a barrier between the fabric that you're going to be pressing on and the heat of the iron. So this is really important when you're working with expensive fabrics, because if you don't use a press cloth like with wool, it can cause you to get a shine on the fabric that will be permanent and it never goes away. And wool is super expensive, so you don't want to do that to your wool. Okay, so the way that it works is you put it over your project to protect your fabric. It also, sometimes you're working with things that are sticky, and so if there is a sticky layer, it prevents getting the sticky layer onto the iron so that you don't have to clean your iron. So the press cloth is a really useful tool to help you prevent it protects the fabric that you're working with, and it protects the iron from getting things on it that you don't want. Okay, this one is the sleeve board, and the sleeve board is designed for you to be able to put small things. Usually it would be for a sleeve or a pant leg opening, so that you can get it over the edge and you can press in one certain spot without pressing through the layers. Because if you try to bring the camera over this way, if you try to put those things over the end of the iron, it's a lot bigger, and sometimes it's too wide to get like a sleeve over it. And so the sleeve board makes it easier to see how it's much smaller than the tip of the iron. So it just makes it easier to get those openings over. So we are going to use the edge. This is an unfinished shirt that somebody made in my class, but it has a sleeve on it. So I'm going to show you how the sleeve board functions to kind of work so that you can get the edge. Let's take the sleeve and turn it inside out. I can just take the edge of the sleeve and I can stick the sleeve board inside the sleeve, so that if I want to press this seam going a certain way. Now, if I'm sewing on fleece, don't forget that you have to turn your temperature down. When I turn my temperature down, I always turn it down, and then I cool it off with steam. So that will actually help reduce the temperature. So then you will melt your fleece if you use it on the cotton setting. So you got to make sure that you put it on the correct setting. Okay, and I just pressed the seam over, and the sleeve board made it possible for me to do it inside the sleeve instead of between both layers. Okay, this one is called the seam roll. It's very, very similar to the sleeve board, the one that I just showed you. The seam roll is just round. The only difference between the sleeve board, if you look at the sleeve board, and the seam roll, is that this allows you to press round. It's super helpful for expensive things that you're making that need to be shaped. Wool is one of those things. If you're stitching on wool has to it works really well to use a lot of steam, but you don't want to press through all the layers, but sometimes it needs a curve instead of a straight, flat press, so to get it to shape right. So this one would go just like the sleeve board. It would go inside the sleeve, or it could go inside a pant leg or inside a small opening. And this will allow it to get pressed, but maybe you don't want it to press flat. You want it to kind of be curved. So you would use the seam roll instead of the sleeve board. And they're kind of interchangeable. Sometimes you could use this if you don't have that, or vice versa. Just understand the difference. The seam roll is curved and the sleeve board is flat. So I'm going to show you that again. The seam roll has a curve to it. It looks kind of like a sausage, and the sleeve board it's going to give you a flat press. Okay. Okay, this is the seam roll that I just showed you. Now I want to show you the tailor's ham. Notice how I love the name of it because I think it's funny. The shape of it is like a ham. So it looks like a hem even though it's not the same color. But there is a reason why it's shaped with this. It's fatter on the top and it's thinner on the bottom. So it's a little different than the seam roll because the seam roll is like just one straight edge. When you're working with fabric, if you were to tailor a jacket or if you're working with something like that, then you would use the tailor's ham to go into things that are multi-shaped. So like if you were shaping something that was a waistline to try to get it to just right, or if you're pressing something at the shoulder, see how this can kind of imitate my shoulder shape, or it can imitate the back of my hip. Okay, so it kind of gives you that same shape as the body. Okay.